Card King, here I come. Hello, music fans, music collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com. Your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program one of the top playing guitarists on the planet. He is a master at his craft, a guitar legend. We welcome in the great Chris Impellitteri. Chris, Brian C., honor to have you.
Wow. Well, I'm humbled to be on your show, Brian. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Chris, congratulations. A proud moment on your band's new 3-CD compilation, which was currently released, titled Awake the Beast, the Impellitteri Anthology. What more can you tell us about this exciting release, Chris?
Well, you know, this body of work is music that we kind of released over the years in certain places globally, right? So obviously Japan, most of Asia, a lot of places in continental Europe. And for some odd reason, I don't know if it was luck or fate, but we ended up having quite a bit of success in those marketplaces. And over the years, our music kind of spilled into other countries, and there seemed to be some sort of interest that was generated on our band. And what was happening, we found, is a lot of, people that were interested in Impellitteri were buying our music, but through imports, right? And they were paying a fortune. So we vowed once we got the legal rights back to masters, we would finally release this music once and for all in all the countries, right? Or all countries globally. So that's kind of what initiated this whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, these tracks are from the years of 1987 to 2010. 23 years of you and the band's work is now being offered, as you mentioned, for fans here in the U.S. Very rare to find your material here in the United States.
I know. Everybody tells us that. It's remarkable. We can go overseas and we can play some headlining shows, and I mean this humbly, but it's crazy. We'll go play concerts, and at some of our shows, 20 or 30,000 people come, right? So we've been able to generate, I guess, some excitement and interest in certain countries, but in other places, people don't have a clue of what we are. They think we're some sort of disease, So it's quite exciting for us.
Now, let's talk about the formation of Impellitteri. It was formed originally with vocalist Rob Rock. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, how did you guys meet?
Well, actually, I met Rob Rock. This is a very funny story. It was actually in Connecticut. I was loaning some of my equipment to Greg Allman from the Greg Allman Band, or for most people know, the Allman Brothers. And Greg was playing, I forget what it was, if it was a club or a theater. So I lent Greg some equipment, and I remember going to the show that night. I went and said hi to Greg. And then as I was going out into the venue, Rob Rock had a band called the Robert Allen Band, and they were opening for Greg. And I remember hearing him going, who is this singer? This guy is insanely talented, has amazing range, great vibrato, looks great. He just had everything. And so I ended up staying. And after their show was done, backstage, I just connected and we started talking. And within 3 days, we were at that same venue rehearsing in the daytime. And immediately we had some sort of music chemistry, right, where we just complemented one another musically, and that was it, and that was the beginning.
Now, your first release with Rob Rock, if I'm not mistaken, was 1987. It was titled Impellitteri, right?
Yeah, it's actually, so we call it the Impellitteri Black EP, and by the way, it was called the Black EP before Metallica's Black Album. And we released it, I think it was actually released first independently in 1986, and then we got signed. We got signed by Sony and Relativity. These were big record labels. And so then they did an official, like more of a large major label distribution, I think in 87. But the actual EP was done in 86.
Right. And now, just reading the band's history, I know Rob has been on and off with the band. He was with you 87 to 88, and then he left and he went to do his own thing. And then did you recruit Graham Bonnet?
Well, yes. So what happened was when we did the Black EP, for some reason, luck, fate, whatever, we basically generated a tremendous cult following around the world. So the Black ET got a lot of attention in places like England, right? Germany, Spain, and then Japan, of course. And so all of a sudden we had all of these followers. And then we started playing in Los Angeles on the Strip, you know, all of the kind of well-known places. And we started getting a big following in Los Angeles and L.A. And as we were getting ready to go do some more tour dates, Rob Rock calls me and says, look, you know, I've been speaking with a guy named Dieter Dirks out of Germany who was a producer for the band The Scorpions, right? And I guess Dieter offered Rob some gig, and Rob decided, yeah, he wanted to go that direction. So I had called Graham. Graham was a friend of mine, and I said, look, you know, I lost Rob, you know, and I said, you know, something to the effect of, what are you doing? Because at this point, he was bummed. He had ended his band Alcatraz, right? And he was coming off a great run with bands like Rainbow and Michael Schenker Group. So right. I played him some music, I think, and the first song we wrote was Stand in Line. And that's how it began with Graham. I mean, that was kind of the inception of why we went to Graham.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, both artists, I mean, Graham has a powerful voice, legendary powerful voice. Rob is, for me, is more known for his melodic rhythm. What difference do you, like, is there a difference when you're performing with both artists? Which artist do you think stands more for the band, fits in more for the band?
Well, look, I mean, they both are a huge part of Impellitteri's sound and our history. You know, I mean, with Rob is this he's got this tremendous range where he can sing like a soprano. You know, he can get up there kind of, I mean, for people that follow heavy metal, guys like Rob Halford, Bruce Dickinson, you know, I mean, Rob has that range. Graham has power unlike any human being. And I've been in rooms with like guys like Dio or whatever, and Graham Bonnet, bar none, is the most powerful singer I've ever heard in my life. Right? When he sings, he literally can roar like a lion. And so they both bring something to our sound. I mean, look, when we did, like if you listen to our new records, Venom or The Nature of the Beast or whatever, you know, that's Rob Rock. But then if you listen to records like Stand in Line and System X, it's Graham Bonnet. And what's interesting about that, it's the same band and same artist writing the music, but the singers are different, and you can really hear what they bring to the table. And a great example of that is if you listen to the first two songs on this new Wake the Beast anthology, the record opens up with a song called Victim of the System with Rob Rock singing, right? And especially towards the end of the song, you hear him go up into those really high catastrophic, well, I call it the catastrophic screams, right? Where he's just killing himself to get up there. And then the song two is a song called Perfect Crime, and now you've got Bonnet. And it really gives us a very unique identity with each singer. So I think they're both equally as important.
And no doubt about it, both iconic voices, no question. We're talking with the legendary Chris Impellitteri, who's with us this morning. All right, Chris, you're considered one of the very best guitarists. I mean, especially when it comes to tone flow, speed, depth, versatility. I want to ask you, how does one learn to play with lightning speed and accuracy and keep it going for as long as you have?
Well, you know, it's practice and it's dedication and it's discipline. You know, I mean, as soon as I picked up the guitar at like 12 years old, I fell in love with the instrument, you know, and there's something about it that I'm able to express myself emotionally through the instrument, you know. And it kind of started, I mean, it was kind of my life, not to go into the violin story, but, you know, I lost my parents when I was 9 years old. So when my grandparents adopted me, they thought I needed some sort of outlet, right? And so the guitar became that vehicle. And so for me, it's not like I'm trying to be this, you know, this technical, proficient, you know, guy who can play faster than everybody else. That was never the intent. It really, the instrument was just, it was really a vehicle for me to express my anger, my internal frustration, whatever, musically, right? And so over the years, I guess that anger, kind of like harnessing, you know, kind of what happens when, you know, when you're propelling a rocket into space, right? You're harnessing all this energy, this massive explosion. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I guess the internal rage comes out through my playing. And a lot of times there's a lot of speed and, you know, whatever. But so that's kind of how that kind of became part of my sound, was just basically who I am. And of course I did need to learn music theory and master the instrument so I could convey what I heard in my head or emotionally, right, through the instrument.
Your speed is epic. I mean, I read an article. I mean, you're like ranked like either like number two, one or two, the fastest guitarists in the world. But I mean, to get the accuracy with that speed flow, I mean, is that a gift that comes naturally, or does that take hours and hours, years of practice?
For me, it took hours and hours and years of practice. And by the way, there's no truth to this. I'm the fastest or second fastest. There's just no truth to that. There's plenty of guitar players that can play extremely fast. And I know I get credit, and Yngwie Malmsteen, and there's some other guitar players. I'm not sure who, people that follow your show, who they know, but there are plenty of guitar players that can play fast, right? But it's how you implement that speed into a song. I've learned over the years it's really important before you just show off how fast you can play or how technically proficient you are. The key thing is writing a great riff and having a great song. That's really been the trick to us. But to answer your question directly, it's hours and hours of practice and discipline.
Now, I know Tony Iommi of Sabbath was one of your early idols, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Any other idols that you followed, younger years that you implemented on your sound when you first started?
Oh, of course. Look, I would say probably my biggest 3 or 4 influences would start with the first Van Halen record. Really helped shape me, right, as a musician. Really kind of, I guess, gave me a path or a direction of what style of music I wanted to get involved with. Same thing with the first 2 Ozzy Osbourne records that had a guitar player named Randy Rhoads on those. So they really helped me. And then there were 3 guitar players on one record called Friday Night in San Francisco, which it was Al Di Meola, Paco de Lucia, and John McLaughlin. And these guys were the guys that really got me into speed, right? Or being able to say, wow, I could play that fast and it sounds great and it really complements the song, excites the music, right? So that was really the influence for me initially.
And you mentioned Ozzy Osbourne. Is it true that Ozzy wanted to get you into his band?
Look, I don't want to exaggerate that because it's been so many years. It's true, yes. Ozzy and Sharon called me. They were interested in me at one point. It was, I don't remember what year it was. It's a long time ago. It was around the time we had the Impellitteri Black EP out. And I had gotten a lot of calls by a lot of different artists, that were looking for guitar players. And they just happened to be one of the groups, right? But I was signed, so it really didn't matter. I really couldn't do much at that point. I was locked in with Impellitteri. And, I'm glad I've done what I've done because for me, it's like I've kind of cemented my own legacy. I still to this day believe we're very much a cult following band. There's certain parts of the world where a lot of people know who we are. Other parts, people don't have a clue.
Absolutely. And I want to mention your website, impellitteri.net. I know you're on social media. Is there any other site that you want to mention? Where can our listeners pick up your new work?
As far as I know, so everybody's distributing it. I saw Target just sold out, I guess. So Amazon, I think, has it. Probably, iTunes, wherever you get music, streaming, etc. It should be available anywhere.
And I want to play a bit. We have a little mix that the station put together of your current release. So I want to play it now. Let's hear it. Chris Impellitteri.
Girl, holding secrets deep inside. It's a crazy world when your heart and mind collide.
Yeah, you just heard Wake the Beast, out now worldwide on Global Rock Records. Fantastic work, Chris. Just amazing stuff.
Well, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Of course, on those clips, I don't know if I heard any vocals, so people are going, "Hey, wait a minute, do they have singers?" Which most of the music does. But yeah, thank you, man. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I mean, and these tracks were handpicked by you, right?
Yeah, well, to be fair, they were actually picked by our fans around the world. Like I say, when we play our concerts, we kind of know which songs resonate with the fans, because as soon as we kick in one, as soon as they hear the opening riffs, if the hands and the fists are up, right, we know, all right, we're off to a good start. And then when you look out in the audience and see like 10,000 plus people singing every word, right, you kind of know these songs are resonating. So most of the songs that made this record are those type songs, I hope everybody gets a chance to check this stuff out, at least the people that have been curious about this band over the years, because I think this probably is a good representation of what and who Impellitteri is.
No doubt about it. So what's in the pipeline? You touring? What's going on currently with you, besides the new release?
Sure. So probably midway through the pandemic, we began writing and recording our new record. So we're still signed with Frontiers for Europe and America and JVC for all of Japan and Australia and places like that. So we owe them another record. So the plan is probably to finish the record and release the new album probably middle of 2023 or getting close to summer of 2023. And then we're going to go out and hopefully just tour the world and play everywhere that will have us. Because historically, we've gone out, we've played a lot of big metal festivals in Europe, and, we've done big headlining shows in Asia, places like that, but we really have kind of stayed away from the United States. So, we're really trying to attempt to come back and play all of the United States, finally.
Right. I mean, you have a huge following, Europe and Japan. And just to piggyback off that response, in the beginning, what drew you to go to Japan?
Well, to be honest, it's what drew us was the fact that our record, like I said earlier when I was talking about 20 minutes ago, the Impellitteri Black EP really established a cult following for this band around the world, right? When Graham Bonnet joined the band, now people who don't know who Graham Bonnet was, I don't know, I mean, Graham's, first of all, he was quite a bit older than me, but when he joined the band in Europe and America and other places, he was from a legendary band called Rainbow, right? And just to put this in perspective, Rainbow headlined Castle Donington, which today is called Download Festival. And when they headlined, the band that opened for them would be bands like AC/DC, right? Judas Priest. So you can kind of tell you Graham's level of popularity. And in Japan, Graham was so successful. I mean, he was a legendary star. So when he joined Impellitteri, when we did the Stand in Line record, I'm not sure what triggered the response it did, but in Japan, it just blew up, right? We became very famous overnight. And so, the first show we played was the Tokyo Dome, which was 65,000 people, So something resonated with the Japanese audience where they really embraced the band. And to be honest, they gave us a career. From there, everything kind of spread or flowed into other countries, right? Because of whatever was happening in Japan for us. But really, that's how we ended up kind of gravitating towards Japan. It was really, they embraced us, and they embraced us big time.
Yeah, just thinking about it, I think it was a brilliant move because, the early 90s, the start of grunge here in the United States, you guys made an impact overseas over there, and you stayed away from here where the grunge explosion took off, and you really cemented yourself out there in Europe and Japan.
Yes, we got, talk about perfect timing. We were so when we did Stand in Line record, we were played a lot on MTV. So I always joke and say, we kind of had that 15 minutes of fame in the United States, right? I was even guest host. I think it was called their Headbangers Ball on MTV, which at the time it reached like 25 million households, right? So it was a pretty popular show. But after we did that, all of a sudden metal started to get, it was blanketed, right? Because obviously grunge was coming in. Now, the one thing where we really lucked out, we were never a hair band. We could never fit into that. We were probably much closer to more of a Metallica or whatever than what was going on in at least the MTV world in the late 80s, like the Poisons and bands like that. So, you know, when our type music was really struggling in America, Japan was the place to be, and certain places in Europe. And this is where all of a sudden we went from competing with, you know, smaller bands like, you know, I guess whatever you would categorize us or classify us at that time, to all of a sudden now we're competing with Metallica, Pantera for the covers of the magazines, and we were getting the covers, right? So all of a sudden we were competing with much bigger bands and holding our weight, doing really well. And, you know, for the next, I'd say 10 plus years, while grunge and rap and everything else took over in America, you know, we were having the time of our lives overseas. I mean, we were just crushing it, sold out concerts. So, you know, I mean, it was just great timing for us and luck.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's perfect timing. And, you know, you can't forget, you know, we have to remember, how about Victim of the System, which was highly influenced by the band Queen?
Oh, big time, big time. Yeah, I mean, I listen, and it's funny, you know, if you listen to the first two notes of Victim of the System, I mean, really, when I hear it, I go, oh, my God, it almost sounds like we're about to kick into a Queen song called Stone Cold Crazy, you know? And I always loved Brian and Freddie and those guys, just, you know, really respected them. They helped shape this band in many ways because people, you know, they think of, often they think of my guitar playing, but really, if you listen to our vocals, the 1-3-5 harmonies, the orchestration, all of that stuff is deeply rooted and influenced by Queen. The heavy, of course, I got to be clear, the heavy side of Queen, because there's the hard rock side, almost metal side of Queen, and then, of course, then you have the very commercial poppy Queen. So it's the harder side.
Yeah, and, you know, I want to get this last question in. I have like 2 minutes left. How was it working with Metallica's assistant engineer? I know you guys collaborated, worked together, right? Mike Tachi?
Yeah, wow, yes. So what happened is, Metallica finished the Black record, and Mike Tachi actually had done the entire Black Metallica record with Bob Rock. And so when Metallica loaded out of the studio one-on-one, Impellitteri loaded in. And so we basically, and it's funny, we used a lot of their equipment, which I don't even know if they knew. Even when I hear the snare and kick drum of stuff like Victim of the System, that's actually Lars's kick drum and snare drum. You know, at least the samples are, and it's just it really helped create a lot of power for the band sonically, and our fan base just loved that as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for your time. Listen, I really appreciate it. Honor to have you.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for helping us promote this. So we are extremely grateful.
Please, and please, before you go, mention the site, mention where the fans can get your new work. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, if you guys have any interest in this thing, you can find out at the band. It's impellitteri.net. So if you Google that, it will probably correct the spelling because I'm sure you'll miss an L or a T. So impellitteri.net. The new compilation is called Wake the Beast. It's our anthology. And I believe you easily can find it on Amazon. I think Target might be sold out, but, you know, you can probably get it anywhere you buy music. So
there it is. Chris, you're a guitar legend, guitar hero. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm honored.
Take care of yourself.
Okay. Cheers.
Bye-bye. Chris Impellitteri, impellitteri.net. Wake the Beast, the Impellitteri Anthology. Pick it up now. Until next week, happy collecting to all.